England. Hundreds of workers broke into factories in the middle of the night and smashed machines with hammers and axes. History recorded them as ignorant mobs who feared technology, a cautionary tale about people who couldn't accept progress. These people were the most skilled craftsmen in England. They had spent decades mastering their trade. They knew more about those machines than the factory owners who bought them. Today, when someone resists AI, we still use the same word for them. Luddite. A word that means someone who's afraid of technology. That word is 200 years old, and the story behind it might be wrong. Early 1800s in England. The Industrial Revolution is underway, and the biggest industry in the country is textiles, making cloth. That's where the money is. The people who make this cloth are skilled workers. They've trained for years, some for over a decade, learning how to weave fabric by hand. They learned through apprenticeships, working under masters who passed the craft down generation by generation. These aren't laborers pulling levers. These are craftsmen. They control the quality. They set the pace. They understand every thread. And they're paid well for it. A skilled weaver in early 1800s England earns a respectable living. Enough to support a family, own tools, maintain a household. Their skill is their income, and their income reflects their skill. Then new machines start appearing in the factories. These machines can produce cloth faster and in larger quantities, and they don't need a decade of training to operate. Anyone can run them. A child can run them. Factory owners see an opportunity: more output, lower cost, bigger margins. The factory owners start bringing the machines in. Production increases, and one by one, skilled workers start losing their place. The workers organize. They start breaking into factories at night, not randomly, not in a frenzy. They move in coordinated groups. They target specific factories. They smash specific machines. The movement spreads fast, hundreds of attacks across England's industrial regions. They call themselves followers of Ned Ludd, a possibly fictional figure who became their symbol. The press calls them Luddites. The official story lands quickly. Ignorant workers afraid of progress, smashing machines they don't understand. A violent, backwards reaction to the unstoppable march of technology. That's the version that stuck. For 200 years, Luddite has meant one thing, and that is a person who fears technology, someone too stubborn or too stupid to adapt. Here's what we picture when we hear mob destroys factory machines. A crowd of angry, desperate people storming in and breaking everything in sight. Chaos, rage, blind fear. That image makes sense. When people are scared, they lash out. When technology threatens your livelihood, you panic. You grab a hammer and swing at the nearest thing. That's the story. Unskilled, uneducated people who didn't understand what was happening to them. Except something about the way they did it doesn't fit. They didn't break everything. They didn't storm in and smash every piece of equipment in the factory. They walked past some machines and destroyed others. They chose. They knew which machines were replacing skilled work and which ones weren't. They knew which equipment was designed to be operated by untrained workers at half the wages. They left the rest untouched. A person who doesn't understand technology breaks everything. A person who understands it perfectly breaks only the piece that matters. These were craftsmen who had spent 10, 15, 20 years learning how textiles worked, every mechanism, every process, every tool. They didn't fear the machines. They understood them better than anyone in the building, including the owners who purchased them. Think about a chef who has cooked for 20 years. They know every knife in the kitchen, which one is for what, how each one cuts, what each one does well and what it doesn't. If someone brings a new blade into that kitchen that's designed to replace the chef with an untrained cook, the chef doesn't panic at the sight of a knife. The chef knows exactly which knife is the threat, because the chef knows knives better than anyone. That's what happened in those factories. The people smashing machines weren't afraid of technology. They were the most qualified people in the room to identify exactly which machine was aimed at them. Here's another thing that seems obvious at first. New machines show up, workers panic, violence breaks out, cause and effect, simple timeline. The machines arrive, the workers react. Of course it happened when it happened. But look at the dates. Textile machines weren't new in 1811. They had existed for decades. The spinning jenny was invented in 1764. The power loom appeared in the 1780s. Mechanized production had been spreading through English factories for 30-40 years before the first machine was smashed. And during all those decades, the skilled workers didn't touch them. They worked alongside the machines. They adapted. They incorporated new tools into their process. No riots, no hammers, no fires. For 40 years, humans and machines coexisted in the same factories. Then in 1811, everything exploded. Suddenly, coordinated attacks across the country, factories targeted night after night. What changed? It wasn't the machines. The machines didn't suddenly get better or more threatening overnight. The technology was the same technology that had been sitting on factory floors for years. What changed was how the machines were being used. Factory owners discovered that if you pair the new machines with untrained workers, you can produce cloth that's good enough to sell, not as good as what the skilled workers made, but close enough. And untrained workers cost a fraction of what skilled workers cost. So the owners started hiring unskilled laborers to run the machines at half the wages, sometimes less than half. The skilled workers weren't being replaced by machines. They were being replaced by cheaper people using machines as the excuse. Think about a carpenter who's worked with power tools for years. The tools aren't the problem, they make the work better. Then one day the company says, "We're hiring someone off the street, giving them your power tools and paying them half your salary. The work won't be as good, but it's good enough." The carpenter's issue isn't with the drill, it's with what just happened to their paycheck. The Luddites didn't smash machines for 40 years. They smashed them the moment the machines were used to justify cutting their wages in half. The trigger wasn't technology, the trigger was the pay cut hiding behind it. So the workers started smashing machines. The movement spread across England. Factories were being hit night after night. Something had to be done. The government responded. In 1812, the British Parliament passed a new law, the Frame Breaking Act. The penalty for destroying a machine was death, not prison, not a fine, execution, or if the court was lenient, deportation to a penal colony on the other side of the world. You'd never see your family again. And it wasn't just a threat on paper. Luddites were arrested, tried, and sentenced. Some were hanged publicly, others were shipped to Australia. The crackdown was fast, organized, and severe. That feels like justice. They broke the law, they destroyed property. Violence has consequences. You can't just smash someone's equipment and expect nothing to happen. Fair enough. But look at what was happening on the other side. A factory owner could cut a worker's wages in half overnight. No warning, no negotiation, no legal limit. A craftsman who earned enough to feed a family could show up Monday morning and learn he now earns less than what it costs to live. That was completely legal. A factory owner could replace an entire workshop of skilled workers with untrained laborers and children, some as young as 7 or 8, at a fraction of the cost. That was legal too. There was no minimum wage, no limit on working hours, no requirement for safe conditions. A factory could work people 14, 16 hours a day in conditions that maimed and killed, and there was no law that said they couldn't. So the government moved fast when machines were in danger. A new law drafted and passed with the harshest penalty available. Machines got protection within months. The workers who lost their wages, their livelihoods, their ability to feed their families, they got nothing. No law limiting how far wages could be cut. No law preventing their replacement with child labor. No protection at all. Destroying a machine, death. Destroying a person's livelihood, legal. The people who made the machines, the people who bought the machines, and the people who wrote the laws were all on the same side. When the tool makers, the tool buyers, and the rule makers are all looking out for each other, the only people left unprotected are the ones doing the work. And when every legal path is closed, when you can't negotiate because there's no union law, you can't appeal because there's no labor law, you can't refuse because there's no safety net, what's left? The only thing they had left was a hammer. History recorded these people as ignorant mobs who feared technology. For 200 years, their name has been used as an insult, Luddite. someone too stupid to accept progress. But what we actually saw was different. The most skilled craftsmen in England, people who understood machines better than the owners who bought them, targeted specific equipment with precision. They didn't fear technology. They had worked alongside it for 40 years. They smashed machines only when those machines were used to cut their wages in half. And when they fought back, the government passed a death penalty for breaking a machine, while there was no law at all to stop an owner from breaking a worker's life. Now it's 2026. AI is replacing jobs across every industry. Laws protecting AI companies, their patents, their intellectual property, their contracts are moving through legislatures quickly. Laws protecting the workers who lose their jobs to AI, retraining guarantees, severance requirements, transition support are still sitting in committees. Proposals, discussions, drafts that haven't moved in months. The technology changed, the speed changed, the names changed. So here's the question. Is this technology advancing, or is a 200-year-old pattern repeating?